Hello and welcome to the Happy Insights podcast. My name is Happy Ali. I am your host, and I'm so excited to have you join me today for this episode because we're going to be talking about art and healing and spirituality. I have a wonderful guest on the show. Her name is Sheryl Benjy. She's an artist. She's an art educator and a creative coach. And welcome to the show, Sheryl.
Thank you for having me, Happy. It's such a pleasure to be here.
It's really nice to have you here in person because Sheryl and I have a history. We worked together. I was her coach, and she inspired me to start my podcast and get it going because I was goofing off. And we're both artists, we're both parents, and we both want to change the world however way we can. So thank you again. It's nice to be in person with you.
Yes, likewise. And it was so nice to have you as my coach. I really enjoyed it. And I highly recommend Happy, amazing. Yeah.
Oh, she can plug me, and I
Yes.
will plug you right back. So I really wanted you on the show because a lot of people don't really connect art with spirituality and healing. And this is what I teach. All my work is about healing and connecting to something greater. But I felt like you were the perfect person to explain it to us because you are a creative coach and really just give us like the details or lowdown of what it is we need to know. But before we go there, I want you to tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me, when did you start the creative process? When did you start drawing or painting or whatever it was? Well, can you get into that a little bit for me?
Yes. So I was 8 years old when I realized that I loved art. And I remember going to a family friend's house and I saw a painting on a wall. And I asked my mom who did that. And she said, "Oh, my friend's daughter did that." And I knew from there that this was what I wanted to do. And I asked my mom to enroll me in whatever class she was in. And my mom did that. And she would drive pretty far to take me to those classes. And I give my mom a lot of credit for sacrificing so much and seeing my vision and passion. And to this day, she does. And from there, I got older and I wanted to become an artist, but I was talked out of it so much. My dad was a physician and he thought going in the medical field would make more sense for me. And coming from an Iranian background, everything was more like you do what makes sense and what makes money, and that's practical. And
Which is basically a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer.
yeah.
Those are your three options.
Right. And so I took all the science courses, and on the side, I would take all the art.
You did.
Yes. And I probably could have minored in art, and I wanted to become an art teacher. But again, I had all those doubts come in like, how is that going to make money? Or am I going to be successful at it? And when you're younger, I feel like everyone else influences you and you don't have the confidence as when you get older and you realize, hey, I can do this. And just taking the courses or life coaching and, certain things happen in my life where I ended up becoming an art teacher.
When did that happen?
That happened when I was 33.
33, which
Yeah.
was yesterday.
Yeah. So, um, that was such an amazing experience for me because it just happened. Like I wasn't expecting it. A friend of mine just saw the paintings I did on my walls, and she said, "You could teach art." And I told her, "Yeah, well, I've been wanting to do that." And by then I had two kids, and at the time they were pretty small, and I wasn't really working. And she said, "I could put together an art class with um, my son and some of his friends and just come and teach it. You know so much." And I just, I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? And I told my husband, and he's like, "What are you gonna teach?" And I said, "I don't know." And I just thought, "I'll just figure it out." And I did, and at a certain point, I had, like, 30 students, and I was doing art nights.
So
And
cool.
yeah, and that was really, like, fulfilling for me. I loved it, and eventually there was an artist that came to my home. She was doing henna tattoo. I hired her to do henna tattoo for my daughter. It was my daughter's first birthday, and that's when my life changed.
How?
Um, she saw again my artwork on the walls, and at the time I was doing it as a hobby, and I was just filling up my walls with art because I didn't know many other artists then, and I couldn't find anything that I really loved, and I didn't wanna just get anything from, like, a store because I feel like art has vibration, and when it's just from a store, in my opinion, it doesn't have energy to it. Like, if you go to Bed Bath& and Beyond and you just get a print, there isn't that special energy that that person made, and they're putting their, like, life force into. So, I wanted to fill my house with good vibes and high energy. So, so she saw my artwork and she said, "Have you ever thought of selling your artwork?" And I was like, no." And I looked at her like she was crazy. And she goes, "Why not?" And that's when a light switch went off for me. Like something that was dormant and hidden for so long and kept in the closet just busted out.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was like she was hypnotizing me. Later, she told me that she was doing NLP, neuro linguistic programming, on me because that was what she was trained in. And we exchanged information, and she became my mentor.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. And she was like my fairy angel artist. And she um, told me what her website was, and I saw her work and I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's like an international artist." And I didn't realize because she was just doing the henna tattoo. You know, you never know who someone is until you get to know them and talk to them. That's why I love like doing podcasts myself because everyone has a story. You know, even if it's just that one person who comes in to do something as simple as like a henna tattoo or whatever, it could be a waitress or waiter or whatever, like something you think is not such a big deal, but like you get to know them and you see they have this wonderful story in them. So,
And change your life.
and change your life. So, had I not offered her food or, you know, just give something and just talk to her, that would never have happened. I wouldn't have had this gift now. And from there, she just started to tell me, okay, you need to create a series of work and about 10 pieces. And I thought, 10 pieces? Are you crazy? And she's like, yeah, you can do it and just create a series. And I started painting, and she's like, Cheryl, just keep painting. Don't think about it so much. You're thinking too much. You're too much in your mind. And I always felt like that was me. I would just be in my mind. And through art, I was able to come out of there and come from more my heart and from my voice because I didn't know how to express myself. I was incredibly shy. And I feel like through my art, I was able to do that.
It's fascinating because you would think that the throat and voice wouldn't come out of your hands, but it does. It can.
Yeah. And when I first started painting, and I realized this later, I created a lot of paintings in blue. And the blue is related to the throat chakra. That's the point in my life where I was trying to really express myself. So everything came out in blue. And I also had thyroid issues and I had to take medication for it. Now I'm off the medication and I take more holistic things to help me, and everything's more level. But I do feel like art was there to help me through that and to heal me with whatever I was going through internally.
So was that your first introduction to art as a healing mechanism, as a healing tool?
Yes, that's when I realized, okay, there's something to this, and it's not just about painting something pretty. And just looking at something. It's more than that. It's deeper.
And for my viewers who are watching, Cheryl was kind enough to bring me this today. I'm gonna put it on the screen, but here, this is the beautiful piece she made for me, and I think it's upside down. So it's beautiful. These are my favorite colors, and she somehow remembered. It's beautiful. And then in this terms, like gold is more like earth energy.
Yeah.
So, and then you got blue. So it's beautiful, but it's got a lot of fun colors in it, but it's gorgeous.
And
So
that one I created after I had someone come into my home and uh do feng shui, and he said I needed to have more of a balance. I had so much blues and I needed to balance more of the lower chakras and the reds and the golds and have more of that in my house. So that's when I started incorporating more of that. And then I began to feel the balance within me and my art and who I was. And yeah, everything felt more aligned. And so I began to understand more of myself through colors and heal myself through colors.
that's amazing. And you correlated the colors with chakras, which, I was kind of late on the chakra train,
Mm,
even though I knew about them forever, but I never really utilized them. And I had an inner experience that changed my entire perspective because I would close my eyes and rub my eyes and see what colors would show up. And one day when I felt like I was receiving information and I was channeling, I closed my eyes and I saw every color of the chakras in sequential order. And that changed my entire perspective about the power of the chakras because I realized I was getting divine energy and it was showing me all of it. But that's awesome. So you mentioned how it helped you express yourself and how the process start. Did it ever get to a point where it was bigger in terms of the healing or it became a stronger medicine than just, like something that was releasing pent up emotions or just allowing you to be more your most authentic self? Has it ever become more of you know, a bigger pill as in
yeah.
terms of a medicine for you?
Yes. I was going through a difficult time around 2020, and it was around the time that you were helping me and you were coaching me. And I decided to do a 100-day art transformation journey to release uh, all that negative energy and feeling and sadness and depression, whatever I was going through. I wanted to release it somehow. And even though, yeah, there was therapy, there was the coaching, I needed more than that. I needed to really, truly express myself. So every day for the next 100 days, I would sit down and paint. And it was on an 8 by 10 piece of paper, watercolor paper. I would have my watercolors out and I would have it prepared for the next day. And I would just, um, usually it was of a portrait and it had a lot of symbolism in there. And it was whatever I was going through in that day. And the colors I would incorporate in there were the colors I needed. And, I look up the colors too to see, okay, what does each color symbolize? And how does it relate to what I'm going through? Or what colors do I need? What symbols do I need? Or what symbols have I seen? Like I would see a lot of hummingbirds, and it related to the person that I was going through the difficulty with. And I would keep seeing these hummingbirds, and I looked it up to see, and hummingbirds represent resilience, and they're just these tiny little creatures, but they're so powerful. They're so powerful and amazing. So, and they just kept showing up, and I just incorporated them in my artwork. It felt so good to do that. And, there were moments when I painted portraits and there were tears coming down, and I would post them. And people would ask me who were, pretty close to me, like, I hope you're doing well, I hope you're okay. And then we would have a conversation. They would DM me and we would have a conversation. And then I would help them somehow, through whatever they were going through. And I feel like art does that as well. It opens up conversations, it opens up vulnerable parts of ourselves that we're afraid to show. You know, we try to show this image on social media, especially of everything being perfect. And it was a time for me to show, it's not perfect right now, and this is what it looks like. And I was scared to do it.
Especially in the Iranian culture,
Mhm.
what other people think is very important. You pretty
Yes.
much base your entire life around what other people think. So that's a lot of courage that you had to muster up to be able to do that, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yes. It's always been a thing um, in my culture, religion, that you have to look a certain way and be a certain way. And there's a lot of pretending. And art for me has brought a lot of that out. Like, I do a lot of body art, and at first when I was doing that, I was terrified. I was mortified because I was like, "What are people gonna think of me and the community?" And I had to let go of that too, because it was something new, and not in the American culture, but in the Persian culture, like, not too many artists do that. And I had people ask me like, "Why is it," Persian people ask me, "Why is it that you do this? What's the point?" And explaining it, and now it it's to the point where I have Persian, people coming to me to have this experience, Persian women.
You know, I was a makeup artist for a long
Yeah,
time, so I do appreciate the human body as a canvas
yeah,
because I worked on the face and the body, just contouring and
yeah,
making it shiny. I wasn't doing what you do, but it was very beautiful to draw on a canvas that was made from nature.
yes,
And it was something about the connection between the artist and the person being drawn on that
yes,
I really love. And there's something about being in people's personal space
yes,
that creates an energetic connection that I really enjoy as an artist. And I feel that I miss now that I don't do makeup anymore because I'm not in people's space. I mean, we're pretty close right now, but in person podcasts are far and few in between.
yes.
So I really appreciate that.
This is yeah, so the reason why I love doing it so much is for that reason. When you work on canvas or on paper, you don't have it's a very being an artist can be very solitary. Like, you are in your studio space by yourself. But when I would paint women, I would be able to interact with them and get to know them and get to the core of who they were or are, and bring it out through art with colors, with paint. And I have them fill out a questionnaire before so I get to know them a little bit better and incorporate symbols in there. And I feel like that is healing as well. Like, when I would see the way they were before and then after, and I'm sure you saw with like being a makeup artist, when a woman comes in before and how she feels, and
That's
then you talking
significant.
to her and like hearing what's been going on with her life and kind of being like the therapist,
It is a therapist for sure.
or coach, and probably why you're here now
Yeah.
doing this.
Well,
Uh,
probably why I was doing that because this was the calling.
yes. Yes. And so um it's healing for that person and for myself, and to feel the paintbrush strokes. Like, they always say, like, if it is so calming, and feeling some of them close their eyes while I'm painting them. And, there's music, and it's just this immersive experience. And they take these photographs home where they feel like a goddess and look like one. And you bring this part of them out that they've hidden for so long. And I feel like that's what my culture in a lot of ways would do, is just repress everything and hide. And where you were too afraid to show who you are. And that's what I just want to bring out in women.
It makes sense how much culture does affect your art. As I'm saying that, I'm looking at my book that I wrote that was completely inspired by my culture. It's about enhancing your inner magnetism, and you're doing something similar. But we go through lives, regardless of what your culture is, where you were born, who your family was. you'll always find something wrong with it so you can rebel against it and create something new. So there's no good culture, bad culture. There's always a place where you're from that you want to move away from or grow from. And I feel people like you or me in our culture, in the Iranian culture, because we're both from Iran, we pushed the envelope, we introduced new stuff, and we realized that we weren't giving enough credit to the people that everybody was so worried we were going to worry, because as soon as they're exposed to something new, people usually welcome new stuff.
Yes.
So I always tell my mom, like, Mom, let me just be. She's like, you were not sent here to change the world and change the way people think. I said, yes, I was. So that was, with coming out of the closet back in the day. And that was really fun in my culture.
I'm sure.
But anyway, so let's get back to the subject of art and healing. So I want to know, for you, what do you think happens in the brain or in the mind or in the spiritual field or whatever it is when you begin to draw as a form of healing or as a form of spiritual connection? What is it? What is it that happens that allows the healing process for many? Because I know many art therapists that have been doing this for decades, and
Right.
they always say they get incredible results, especially from children or people who don't know how to express themselves.
Well, I feel like we repress so much inside ourselves and we don't know how to express it. And, there's so many forms of expression. You could write, you can play music, you can paint, and so many other ways you can sing. And when you can express yourself in those ways, you are letting go of stuck emotions inside of you. And, talking about it is good, as well. But I feel we were all born creative. And I mean, look at your children. Look at the way they express themselves when they start to color, and it doesn't matter what they're creating. They're not like, "Oh, this sucks." I mean, at a certain age, when they get to a certain age, they get that way. But when you put all those materials in front of them, they get excited and they're just putting whatever it is they want on that paper, and some of it's ugly. And that's what, as adults, I feel like it's hard for us to deal with the ugly. And we don't want to put that on paper where everyone can see it and we put ourselves down for it. But I think there's and trying to be perfect all the time is just not the reality. I always say there's the um perfection and imperfection. That those moments of imperfection are just so perfect. And why not? And if it's ugly, it's okay. That's part of it.
Well, art is really valued because it's unique. The really expensive stuff, it's because it's very unique to that
Mhm.
person. And no, if somebody could do the exact same thing that just as perfect as they thought the other one was, but the other one won't have any value because it doesn't have the soul in it. I have to tell you something. Somebody was trying to help me yesterday because I'm writing a book and I'm in about a week out from finishing it. And they were trying to give me guidance and saying to use AI, artificial intelligence, to help me. And I looked at them like they were crazy. I thought, gosh, I'm supposed to pour my soul into this. So it's in there, even though the piece, my book will be copied and people won't actually be taking my computer or whatever it is that I poured my energy into, but the words will have an imprint of my soul in it. So when you were talking about that earlier, I really thought about that. I thought, gosh, I can't believe somebody really want me to do something and put it as and use artificial intelligence because it wouldn't have a piece of my soul.
Exactly. And you always talk about like everything has energy, vibration, frequency to it. And what is it that you want to put out there? And that doesn't have, it's like that energy. So that life is so important, that life force that you're putting out there. So I agree with that.
So I'm going to ask you three questions. First, what do you think is happening to your brain when you're being creative? And how does that help with healing? What do you think is happening in there?
Well, I feel like, I mean, for me, in my case, it brings a sense of calm. And I see that with my students as well. Like there is and they become like they go into this meditative state. And I'm into meditation and that helps me with my creativity. But even if you're not into it and you can sit down and create something for just 30 minutes a day or whatever, um, it creates that calmness I feel in your brain. And you're able to focus more and not think. Like you get into this state of just being focused on whatever it is you are doing in that moment and to be present. And that's what we don't have this day. We are just so distracted by our phones and so much going on in the world that this is a gift. And
And it's a present
it's a
to be in the
present.
present.
Yeah,
Yes.
to be in the present. And it's something to take advantage of. And like I said, we are all born creative. We just lose it. We forget it. And as adults, it's important to get back to that and to feel that again and be that kid again.
So the second question I wanted to ask is, what do you think is happening energetically when you are being creative?
Energetically, well, you're increasing your vibration. You're increasing the good energy within you. And I mean, if you want to get down to the chakras, like I think it's the sacral chakra that's deals with the energy and creating and um that is you're
Magnifying
magnifying
and
that,
probably activating.
activating and that's it's important. And creativity, we came here to create, in my opinion. And it could be sometimes some people come here to destroy, that's part of the yin and yang of life.
But that's
So
creating too,
that's creating too. It
Creating
is.
destruction is creating destruction.
Right.
It is we are creative by nature. I mean, I believe we are extensions of God and God is the creator, therefore we are too. So the third question for you is, what if someone doesn't really consider themselves an artist or feels uncomfortable picking up a tool that would be for art only?
Right. I've dealt with a lot of students, mostly adults, because kids, like I said, they're so open to it and they're so excited when they see all those materials in front of them. Adults feel more intimidated, and it's a vulnerable place to be, especially when you're in a group with other students. And what I tell them is don't take yourself so seriously and enjoy the process and just have fun. And whatever comes out, and it's okay. And start with something small, like be a kid again and bring out the paper and crayons. It's that simple, or the markers, or if you have kids, sit with them and watch them, observe them, and see what they're doing. Scribble.
Well, even as an artist, you don't have good days all the time.
Oh.
I know you know that. I
Yes.
know that because I am an artist and I take time off from being an artist on paper, or now I've been doing art on my iPad, which I love. So I start with stick figures when I want to start back. I
Okay.
literally do stick figures, or when I want to express myself, I'll do a little circle, a line, and that I'm like, okay, that's me, that's my child, that's that. Because I feel like I just need to get it out.
Right, exactly. And this is something I also tell them, the ones who are like, oh, how come she's creating something so much nicer than me? And I tell them that, well, she's been coming to my classes for a while. And what happens is the more you create, the more you're connected to source and it keeps opening up the more and it just gets better and better and better. And so you just want to keep practicing and keep connecting to that source.
And on a neurological level, you are creating new neurons.
Yes.
So your brain is also growing at the same time while you're connecting.
Yeah, you're creating new connections and they become stronger and stronger and you become more creative. So it's just practice. It's like I started taking piano 2 years ago after not playing for 20 years. And I thought I would start from Mary Had a Little Lamb. Luckily, I didn't. I remembered a lot of the notes and everything. So, um, I was somewhere in the middle. And it wasn't just about me playing once a week with my piano teacher. I had to practice every day just for a few minutes, 15, 20, sometimes 30 minutes. And I started to get better and better and better. And I remember as a kid, I would get so frustrated because I just couldn't get the song or I just couldn't play as well as the other students. And I didn't realize as a kid that, and even though my mom would tell me you need to practice, or my piano teacher told me you need to practice, I thought they were just being annoying. And as an adult, you realize, okay, yes, it is so important to practice and get those neurons and everything connecting so your fingers can get it. And it's just over and over and over again until it gets better. So, and, there's people who look at the work I do and they're like, wow, that's amazing. That's great. And I tell them, you know how many years I've been doing this to get to that point, and it's still not that great. There's so many artists who are so much better than me, but I just keep going and I can't compare. I can't look like,
Well, I think if you look at it as a process of being creative or healing or just expression, doesn't matter what other people are doing. If you're
Mhm.
trying to, make a living off of something, I'm speaking to more of my audience than you.
Yes.
If you're really just trying to use it as an outlet to let go of maybe trauma that's inside your body that requires your body to move as you're drawing and expressing yourself, or if you're just doing it to distract yourself from doing destructive things, or if you're doing it because you just don't know how to express yourself verbally, or whatever it is, if you have an intention behind it other than being the greatest artist on the planet, literally the stick figures will do,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Yes.
So you are also a creative coach. So can you tell me a little bit about that briefly? What do you do and how do you work with people?
So, um, it was interesting. We did a retreat. I did a retreat with a organization called Living Beauty, and it's women who have gone through cancer, going through it. And we did yoga, a sound bath, and I did the art portion. And one of those women came to me to do a healing coaching session. And it was so beautiful because before we started, she was not feeling well, feeling down, and just going through some pain. And I led her through the session. And afterwards, she was like, I feel so much better. And not that it took all her pain away, but there was this calm and sense of like peace within her. And she was just happier. And I feel like that's what creative coaching does. It brings that um, part of you that you don't see, that you feel, that creative part of you that you keep repressed. Um, it brings it out, and I have tools that I use where I help people to uh, get those creative juices flowing.
Do you recommend it for somebody who's already creative or someone who has no creativity background and just wants to tap into that?
Both, it doesn't matter. Again, I feel we are all creative, but we repress it. We keep it so hidden and we forget. And it's there. It's there. We just need to tap into it. And that's what creative coaching is all about, is tapping into that creativity again and bringing it out.
So it probably wouldn't be a single session. It'd be like a series of sessions for you to slowly progress and
Right. And
uncover.
right. And doing not just talking, but actually doing art together and creating together. And at the same time, coaching um, my student through it, my client through whatever they're going through, because they're going to see things come out through their art. And I also do a guided meditation beforehand to calm their senses. And we go through different colors and what colors that might come through them. And um, also, what does that color mean that they saw? And w- is it the color that they needed at this time?
So basically, you're working with their mind to help them heal their own life issues. And you're also working with a creative aspect to fuse the two and allow the creativity to bring out things that you need to see to help them heal.
Yes, and to build the self-confidence because a lot of people don't have that confidence in themselves that they can create. And it's something so many adults lack, and I see it over and over again when I'm teaching adults is they put themselves down. Um, "That's terrible, I don't like it," and I had one student who said, "I'm not enjoying the process," and I said, "Okay, that's okay." My daughter, I remember she was around 8, and she created something, she hated it, and she just crumbled it up and just threw it, and I didn't say anything, and I just observed her, and she was getting so frustrated, and then she brought out another piece of paper, and she created something again, and then she liked it, and I just from observing her, I realized, wow, this is what so many adults go through, but they quit.
They stop at the
Um
trash can.
Uh-huh. They don't give themselves permission or the space to go back and create something new and let's start all over. And I feel like that's what life is about. Like we make mistakes, whether it's with parenting or life decisions or whatever it is we're going through in life, and we don't give ourselves the permission to start all over and say, "Hey, this is a do-over and it's okay to make that mistake."
I think your sessions would be amazing because it would be creative and coming to terms with a lot of your own hangups or things that you're holding on to. So it would be like a therapy and art at the same time. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, and I've also worked with children, and I had one who she was so hard on herself, which most kids they're were so great and their confidence was so high. But this one, she just kept putting her work down and eventually I got her to the point where she was having more confidence. And then she took one of her paintings home and her mom goes, and it was this cute unicorn. How magical. Unicorn. Kids love painting those magical creatures. And the mom um calls me and goes, "Can you work on her skills? That painting was a disaster."
Wow.
And I realized that no wonder her self-confidence is so low if her mom is telling her that. Not that I'm not trying to judge or anything, but I feel like it's so important for the adults too to, when they're talking to their children about whatever they're creating. I'm not saying to say, "Oh, that's fantastic, that's wonderful," or, just observe, "Wow, you created, I love the colors you used, and what is that you put in there?" And um is that a symbol or is that a house or what does that mean to you?
Is it a dog? No. Did you call Child Protective Services on the parent? I would have done that. No, I'm only joking. But that, so children and adults both can come to you and they will get different things. Adults are interesting because I work with adults
Yes.
mostly, and peeling off those layers is
Yeah,
really fun. But I
it's
love
really fun.
doing it.
Yeah.
But kids are so different because they're just so pure. I have
They're
art walls
so
everywhere.
pure. Yeah.
My son that has more frustrations living inside him, or he's expressing them a lot, has a lot more creative juices flowing through him. I
Yeah.
just realize maybe it's because there's a lot inside him that needs to come out. And there's so much art around the house from him. And it's all from him
Oh, I
mostly.
love that.
But I think because he is just so serious about life and takes it so seriously, I can see how he's channeling that into his art. And he's only 6.
It's amazing.
Cheryl, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate having you on the show. Is there anything else you'd like to add that I didn't ask, or anything you want to share with my viewers and listeners?
Something that came up for me also was, there's so much going on in Iran right now. And I did a whole series on that when it comes to like healing. That was something because, my parents immigrated out and during the 1979 revolution, I was only 2. And there was so many repressed feelings that I had that I didn't realize until I created this body art series that had to do with Iran and to the women, dedicated to the women of Iran. And there was so much healing that went on for me. And I got so many DMs from women from Iran saying, thank you for this. So I just want to bring light to that, and that whatever trauma or hurt or pain people are going through in the world, there are tools that can help, and art is one of them.
I love that. Thank you so, so much. I hope you
Thank
come back
you.
on the show and we can dive
Absolutely.
into other topics that I know I would love to talk to you about and with.
Absolutely happy. It's been a pleasure and an
Thank
honor.
thank you. Thank you. Same here. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to write a review. Although no one really does this, so why don't you be the first person to write a review, especially on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or YouTube? Go for it. Do it. It takes 2 seconds. All right. Thank you. Have a good day. I will see you in the next episode. Bye.